We all want to hang on to the good times, to hang on to the wonderful experiences, to those wonderful, loving moments. We don't like to see good times end. When we experience being loved, and really cared for, we want that experience and that feeling to last forever. When we are at a place where we are filled with a sense of the beauty of all creation, the beauty of nature, and the graciousness of God, we would like to hold on to that feeling for as long as we can. We share in a wonderful meal, a delicious meal in great company. And it becomes hard to think of leaving the table, leaving the food and the conversation and the friends. We know that in spite of our wishes and hopes, these special feelings and experiences all become part of our history. And then we hunger, we thirst, we desire love, companionship, and the beauty in the food again. An experience of love leaves us wanting to know that love again and again, over and over in our lives. We want to know that same peace that we find. We want to find that peace again and again. Our physical hunger returns, and so we search for food and we search for nourishment. In spite of how wonderful the experience has been, we also know it won't last forever. We get a taste of something wonderful, and eventually we desire it again. And sometimes we wonder, did I do something wrong? Why is it that my hunger returns for love or for peacefulness or for beauty or for food? It seems that our appetites will never fully be satisfied. And so we live in the hope and the expectation that we will be able to find new experiences day after day and week after week and year after year. Today we hear Jesus' invitation to see him as the living bread come down from heaven. We are to eat his flesh and drink his blood and have his life in us. He makes it very clear, very plain. He is true food and real drink. Jesus himself was also a man who hungered and thirsted. We know that one of the last words on the cross referred to his thirst. But we also know that Jesus hungered while on earth. He hungered especially for God's presence, God's nearness, and an awareness of God's love. He hungered for the peace that came from knowing that love and from knowing the presence of the Father. And so again and again we hear in the Scriptures that he went off to a deserted place, off by himself, in order to pray. He needed that, and he desired that. Those special times of prayer, those special times of experiencing the nearness of the Father, to be renewed in a sense of God's love for him and of God's presence with him. And now, Jesus wants to be that presence of God for us, for the disciples. He wants to be the sign of God's love and the presence of God with each and every one of us. He wants us to see him as the food that can satisfy our hunger for the nearness and the love of God for each and every one of us. And knowing that nearness and that love of God can often strengthen us. It can renew us in our peacefulness. It can help us to put together the puzzles of life that beset us. When we know that when something is wrong, when something isn't working right, when there's some kind of hunger, something's going on in our lives, we know there's lots of things that we can try and a lot of things that we can do. Very often we try to distract ourselves. Well, let me think about something else. Let me turn on the television or on the computer or go to the iPhone and text this one or that one, whatever it might be. We know that we can look in the wrong places for joy or for strength or for peace that we are seeking. But today, we come here to the Eucharist, and we can be reassured. We can be reassured of the Lord's love and the Lord's presence with us. It is that presence that we celebrate here that can indeed renew us in strength. It's that presence that we celebrate here that can nourish us and strengthen us. And it's that celebration here that can remind us of the bigger picture of what life is all about. Because we are people of faith does not mean that we have it all together or that life is easier for us than for others. But because we are people of faith, we know where our strength and where our nourishment comes from. And that's why we come here. We know our hungers, but we also have come to know Jesus as our nourishment and as our source of strength and our source of peace. We come week after week because we know that we hunger, and we know that we need to be renewed with the gift of God's Word, and most especially with the gift of the Eucharist.